It has been a transformed opposition in the parliament ever since the coalition decided finally to drop the net zero straitjacket. And rightly, it's been open season on Chris Bowen, the part-time Energy Minister now and full-time President for UN climate negotiations. In question time, the focus was on that shock spike in inflation today, confirmed by the latest release of data from the Bureau of Statistics, and in particular the 37% rise in power prices, the direct result of government subsidies starting to come off, subsidies that were only there to mask the impact on power prices of the government's emissions obsession.
The Prime Minister promised the Australian people that we had turned the corner on inflation. Prime Minister, why do Australians have to pay the price for Labor's economic failure?
29 days before Christmas, what does the Prime Minister have to say to struggling mortgage holders facing no rate relief in sight?
The cost of living crisis being endured by Australian families is at least in part the Albanese government's fault. Its insistence on the world's fastest renewables rollout, requiring at least 10,000 kilometres of new transmission lines, all of which has to be paid for, is at the heart of the pain in your pocket. But there's a much bigger catastrophe coming, and it's certainly not more extreme weather events, given they've always been a feature in this country: storms, floods, droughts and fires. No, it's the economic catastrophe, the extreme economic events coming if this government gets its way. Because while the PM at last week's G20 meeting in South Africa was claiming that Australia would keep exporting coal and gas, the very fossil fuels the world needs, at the same time as his minister was in South America at that UN Gabfest, signing Australia up to the total elimination of fossil fuels. In 2024, we exported $85 billion worth of coal and $67 billion worth of gas, making them, after iron ore, our single biggest exports. Yet there was Chris Bowen declaring that they have to go. Have to go in order to save the planet, he says, with his decision to sign us up to the UN's latest bit of nonsense. It's called the Declaration of the Transition Away from Fossil Fuels. Now, if you ever needed proof that the left hand of this government's got no idea what the right hand is up to, well, there it is. And it would be a clear case of economic self-harm on an epic scale if Australia were to connive at the loss of our largest export industries, a massive part of our national income, by walking away from coal and gas. But that's exactly, or very clearly, what the minister has just signed us up to. Now, presumably, Bowen would not have signed us up to this treaty without cabinet or at least prime ministerial approval. But if that's the case, what then was Anthony Albanese doing at G20 saying we would keep exporting coal and gas? Maybe this is the surest sign yet that Bowen is out of step with his party. Maybe this is a sign that they will shortly find a way to get rid of Labor's weakest link and its biggest political liability, particularly now the coalition's going to fight and not fold on energy. It's interesting to note that after fulsomely backing Bowen on Monday, yesterday the Prime Minister's office told the Australian newspaper that Bowen would not be going, after all, to next year's April climate jamboree in Colombia. And this is a meeting that is set to debate the phase-out of fossil fuels. He was going and he wasn't going. Now, my read is that Bowen's for the high jump bar. I mean, he's poisoned with voters. Labor hardheads know that. This new UN gig will be a way to allow him to dismount with some sort of an excuse. And while he won't be shown the door immediately, I can promise you that he will not be Energy Minister at the next election.